good morning, depending on where you're calling from. Happy Friday, regardless. Thank you all for joining our webinar today. So my name is Josh Wilson. I'm the Vice President of Sales here at EMS Consulting, and we have got a lot of great stuff that we're going to cover today. The front half of the meeting, we're going to be having a discussion between Linda Reid, who's our Chief Innovation Officer, and Sarah from Renasant Bank. They're going to be discussing the journey that Renasant's taken through their mortgage opportunities, leveraging the Salesforce platform. And then we're going to change gears and show you guys a live demonstration of some ideas on how EMS looks at the mortgage industry and what it could be looking like for you all leveraging the Salesforce technology. So Linda, with that, I'm going to pass it to you and Sarah to get this discussion going.
Absolutely. Can everybody hear me fine?
Loud and clear.
Great. So, hey, Sarah, it's been a while. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's good to see all of y'all's lovely faces. I haven't seen many of them time.
I know. So I'm just going to ask you a few questions, things that are relevant to how the Salesforce solution has been implemented for you, but also just some of the marketing and some of the market industry kind of challenges that we have had and we are having. So let's take it away. So it's been a while since we developed and implemented your Salesforce solution. How long has that been?
I think it's been about 4 years.
Wow.
We started working with you guys prior to that, though. I mean, we've been inside of Salesforce for that long, at least in our direct-to-consumer division. So, yeah, it's been a while. It doesn't seem like that long, but it's been. Yep.
So for the audience, what channels are you processing through the Salesforce solution, and were they all implemented at the same time?
Yeah, great question. No, we started out, I mean, as you know, Josh, Linda, Rob, I think you're on, we started out with consumer direct being our main focus. As many banks several years ago started realizing we needed that direct-to-consumer option. And so with that, the biggest piece of that is really a CTI option, as well as a really good lead management tool. And so consumer direct was the natural fit to stand it up with. And so we went down that route first, and it worked beautifully, and we had great success. And then from there, we went on to add retail, and then wholesale. So now we have all three of our channels inside of Salesforce that are functioning beautifully every day, whether it be from lead management to prospecting to post-close solutions. But CD was where we started, and now we have the entire mortgage division that we run and operate inside of it.
Wow, that's great. It's been a long journey. So since you've implemented Salesforce, and it's been several years, how have you been able to quantify a real return on investment for that solution?
Yeah, and that's probably my biggest selling point on Salesforce. I personally, for my role, I'm held accountable on a quarterly basis, and then an annual basis. It's actually included in my review every year on what our return is. And so starting with CD, we were able to eliminate 2 other solutions by having Salesforce as a lead management tool. And so obviously that was an immediate cost savings. But over time, and with COVID happening, we were able to see a direct ROI related to the solution. Even on an operational perspective, we were able to get rid of another tool that we were using for in-process campaigns, and there were just many things that we were able to sort of work together inside of Salesforce and add plugins or build out things along with EMS. And ultimately, every single year over year, I've seen a dramatic ROI, and it started out pretty low the first year, but now, last year was about $1.2 million. From a combination of cost savings to being able to show from app to close when you look at those numbers in your pipeline, the increase that you see with having certain campaigns and solutions inside, that was a big return as well. So last year was about $1.2 million. We were able to eliminate a couple of FTEs. So things like that have been a dramatic driver of what has generated that revenue.
What about just your leads? Like, I know in the beginning there was really a challenge to not only get leads, but how to react to them and make sure they didn't fall through the cracks.
Sure, yeah, no, that's a good question. And we have a few different routes for lead management, whether it be for consumer direct or retail, wholesale, et cetera. But CD, as I mentioned before, was our primary starter of the lead management tool. And so we work with a couple of providers. You know, I'll drop a name at bankrate.com. But there are several lead management companies that we work closely with, and being able to show conversion from, you know, app to close within those solutions. So we are able to look at a lot of different options from generating leads and seeing what that looks like. Those leads, if you guys are, any of you are in the CD space, they're not cheap leads. They can be about $200 a lead, depending on the viability and the quality of the lead. But those leads, we were able to see a major pickup from the CRM that we were using previously to what we have now with Salesforce. So the conversion rate went up simply because we made them more sticky with how we were managing them inside of Salesforce. But we also have our CTI, our phone system integrated with it. So I don't know if that answers your question, Linda, but they became more
absolutely
sticky.
Yeah, and I think it kind of leads into the next question is, with today's challenges in the mortgage industry, how does Salesforce help meet these challenges?
Yeah, the challenges are pretty massive, as we all know. Rates are higher than they have been in the last 3 years, and inventory is lower than it's been. So if you don't have good relationships with realtors, builders, you know, refis are drying up fast if they haven't already for you. But we've been able to take data inside of Salesforce. So we are integrated into our LOS and our data mart, which is where we feed all of the data from or to. And so having all that data in one place and having a good tool to be able to scrub it and to add intelligence inside of it and say, hey, if this borrower meets this criteria, what's their, for example, what is their equity look like? Are they a good candidate for a refi, for a renovation loan? You know, people are home more now than they were years ago. So what kind of products work for them? And so having the ability to scrub the data that we have and check these boxes, whether it be for a particular product or a particular, you know, ancillary product. We are a bank, so we offer deposit accounts and we offer credit cards. So things of that nature, being able to kind of look at it from a 30,000 foot view and say, here's all this data in one place. Now, once you have that data, you have the ability inside of Salesforce to position them in a campaign, to send, you know, and to follow up with them, with their mortgage banker or their account executive. So being able to plug in all of these different options once you've put all this data in one place was a cost savings and a time savings for me personally, and really helped us execute on, you know, leveraging in a hard time in mortgage what we see to be, you know, the future of our world, at least for the next 2 to 3 years while rates are the way they are.
Okay, great. So if you were making the decision now for a new solution to streamline your lead to close loan process, as well as your marketing, what would be some of the things that would help you make that decision?
Sure. I mean, some of the things that I worried about, and, you know, Linda, we could go back to us being at a conference table in Birmingham 4+ years ago, but the considerations that we had was, how does it work with our LOS, and how are we going to be able to push and pull the data? That's obviously a consideration. What does your solution need to offer, and what is your user interface look like? How are they testing it? What do they believe it will do for them? Adoption is a big thing that we push here, and ensuring that your retail team especially is inside of the system and leveraging it to expand their business. I think that those are the top considerations. And then from there, what does the future look like? What's the scalability? As you add users, if you go down the operational path, what does it offer? Plugins, applications that you can add, custom build outs, those were all things that I considered over time. I've been in this world for a long time, and there are many CRM solutions and many integrations and interfaces that you can add, and data lists and reporting, etc. But having a sort of a one-stop shop, for lack of a better term, that you can do everything in one place was where I wanted to be personally. I didn't want my loan officers to have to jump from system to system, or my AEs to have to go from this system to this system. And then Consumer Direct, making sure that they lived, breathed Salesforce was a huge deal. So checking all of those boxes was a big deal. And then from the marketing perspective, that's just sort of an added benefit. That's sort of the icing for me, is having Pardot. We're big in Pardot. So having Pardot there, and then having the analytics behind it to say, hey, we pushed out this massive campaign to 15,000 email addresses, and it generated 3,000 applications that generated, 900 closed loans that gave us X amount of revenue on their gain on sale. So being able to add dollar amounts and give black and white numbers to my executive team was a big deal. And the added benefits to it of those boxes I was able to check initially years ago was huge for me. So I think that is, understanding what your needs are, and then knowing that you have a solution that checks those boxes plus some, especially when you're looking at a long-term strategy.
Awesome. So how has the adoption been with your loan officers?
So Consumer Direct is 100%. It's their first system they open up every single day. It's where they live and breathe. Senior management, leadership, the dashboards that we have inside of Salesforce, they're using them daily. Email subscriptions, all those sorts of things. That is 100% an adoption. Our retail side is about 75%. Usually you have your higher producers for us that are the bigger players inside of Salesforce. They're our power users. They're the ones that we rely on to kind of drive their business through Salesforce. Those with loan officer assistants or mortgage banker assistants, however you all want to view those, but any type of sales admins, those teams are usually 100% in adoption.
Great.
It's your smaller producers. It's the ones that are newer to the industry that don't fully understand it quite yet. But overall, the adoption's been really good.
Perfect. So I understand that you've replaced your POS. You actually replaced it, I think, a couple of years ago, and you're now replacing your loan origination system. Do you have any concerns on how replacing these source systems will impact your Salesforce solution?
Yeah, obviously that was my biggest concern when we started looking at new LOSs. I'm not concerned. I was initially, obviously, but now knowing what I know, I'm not very concerned. We knew into this transition with you guys. I mean, Linda, I think I won't name drop necessarily, but our LOS is it was a legacy LOS. And so when we started this project together, Linda, that was, we had many of afternoons discussing how we were going to figure that piece out, because that was our biggest challenge, frankly. But knowing that we eventually would not be inside of the LOS that we're currently on, we were strategic in saying, hey, we need to make sure that whatever we're doing here is going to be easy to transition to a new LOS. So the way that we built it out with you guys, and y'all kind of understanding that part of our business, it's become very easy. It's simply really just been new mapping and new data sourcing and working with, you know, the middle piece that we sort of have that is the connector. But we pull data every less than 5 minutes, so it's almost real time. And we don't see any issues so far in the new build out and how we'll be working inside the new system and what that interface looks like.
Yeah, and that's very key, that we're building your lead to close loan process for loan officers to be in Salesforce on the move, on their mobile phones. They don't have to get into the LOS to find out what's going on with their loan and all the automations and tasks that are created. But building in a way that even if you replace your POS or LOS, or even we build the POS, which we're going to show the what we built for a mortgage portal here in the demo, it shouldn't be a big deal, right? Because you're not changing your user experience on the Salesforce side. You're just mapping the data to a new LOS. But I think it's important because I would have to say, we won't say what the LOS was, but it was the most challenging, very old, and almost impossible to integrate with, but somehow or another we cracked the code, right? And we were able to do that. So the demo we're going to do is really with Encompass, because that is the biggest share of our clients are on Encompass, and that was not your LOS. So I want to make sure that's clear, that everybody knows that. But we really appreciate it, Sarah. It's been a wonderful journey, and we love to hear how you've really benefited from the Salesforce solution.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm open to answer any questions anybody has. It was not Encompass, I will say that. And, you know, we are very excited to be kind of moving on to a new solution. And you're exactly right. Our users will have zero hiccups. There will be no issues in their process inside of Salesforce. So that was a selling tool. You know, as many of you know, if you haven't transitioned an LOS, the biggest part is you know, training your team and not having any fallout from it. And so it has been a selling point to say, hey, you're having to learn a new LOS. It's going to make your life easier ultimately, but your CRM is staying the same, and that's consistent. Your user experience there is consistent. What your customers are receiving, it's going to be the exact same. So not having any issues inside of our team during that transition has been very nice.